Tension at F1 teams is a core part of the sport. Your closest rival is the driver on the opposite side of the garage. However, it's not often until the midpoint of the season that we truly see these rivalries erupt. With the season poised as it is, however, the tinderbox of the upcoming silly season has already led to some pretty fiery exchanges, prompted by insecurities about their longevity in the team, or for some, their longevity in the sport. Nowhere is this more poignant than Red vs Rosso Cashpool Tauri, where a maligned veteran of the sport looking for redemption and an upstart middleweight looking to punch up with their career jockey it out to secure their futures in the sport, whether that means staying in the Red Bull family or proving to greener pastures that they are the ideal candidates to take their team further. And it's not just at RB that this can be seen, as flashpoints up and down the grid seem to be on the borderline of plummeting into full chaos in this season earlier than we have ever seen. So the question is, will they see red, or can they keep their cool and position themselves for a career-defining move? Want to know what happened at RB this weekend to cause such tension? It seems like the reimagined sister team has been put on the path of chaos from the start, but we were not expecting it to get so fiery so quickly. And stick around, because Carlos Sainz got off to a dream start, and it has not gone unnoticed. So RB didn't exactly threaten the podium like some were speculating, did they? Much to the chagrin of the drivers, they were caught in the mix, fighting for scraps just outside the points with Zhou, Magnussen and Albon. Finishing P13 and P14 alone would have been enough to be frustrated coming away from the weekend, but it seems the frustrations weren't just leveled at the performance this weekend, as insults have been traded across the garage. So how exactly did the team go from podium threats to a chaotic mess within the space of a weekend? Well, in the closing laps of the race, Yuki Tsunoda had his nose up the back of Kevin Magnussen's Haas, which surely should come at least after the third date. Keep it classy, Yuki. A fast-approaching Ricciardo on soft tyres had a prime view of this from his Visa Cash App RB01, very catchy, as he was instructed that Yuki would swap positions in the coming lap. Bearing in mind that it was in the final 5 laps, Yuki looked set to at least challenge Magnussen and was showing no signs of falling away, as well as Yuki seeing his race go sideways earlier on due to questionable strategy decisions by the team. Paired with his penchant for swear-laden rants, well then you can probably guess what Yuki's reaction was. After it was deemed that Ricciardo on the softer rubber would have a better chance of pushing past Magnussen, Yuki was instructed to swap places, to which he replied, "Are you kidding me? Now?" To be fair, this is an incredibly understandable response from a driver who was being asked to further compromise his already compromised race. Tsunoda was not exactly quick to give up the position, holding on for a further lap and leaving Ricciardo frustrated as he passed, radioing to the team that he didn't need to say anything because the situation was pretty clear. Yuki was more upfront on his radio, giving a sarcastic, "Thanks guys, I appreciate it," as he finally let Ricciardo past in a way that likely removed any possibility of either driver challenging the now escaping Haas. As let's be real, it's not like it was an ease past on the main straight, was it? Yuki was clearly still simmering at the checkered flag due to lingering frustrations from 5 laps prior, as the Kanagawan driver flew past Ricciardo on the cooldown lap, throwing out the anchor and braking so hard that he locked his tyres before getting closer to his teammate's car than I've been to my wife in years. Ricciardo was less than impressed, with the Aussie clearly being caught off guard by this surprise visit from his teammate as he fumed, "What the fuck? I'll save it, he's a fucking helmet." Ricciardo was later questioned about the incident, and the Honey Badger was clearly still perplexed by his teammate's on-track outburst, with him saying, "I don't know. I came on the radio and was trying to stay cool. A bit of immaturity, let's say that. I'm being very sensible right now, but let's call it immaturity. He's obviously frustrated with the team orders call, but let's be real, this is something that we talked about before the race. It was very likely I was going to use a soft at the end of the race, so he knew that there was a chance that I would have a pace advantage at the end, and if he gets the call, then it's going to happen. He's not giving me points, we're fighting for 13th, so at least give us the best chance to at least get one car in the points." In all honesty, we can understand Yuki's frustration, as clearly Ricciardo wasn't any more capable of chasing the Haas than he was. However, going about your protest in such a manner isn't exactly the best way to get people on side. Ricciardo reflected on the incident that, "It's a long year and we need to make sure we're all good, so we'll go back, have a meeting and be very mature about it, and then look forward to Jeddah." obviously getting one last jab in before looking to get the issue closed for the time being. But this is really not the stable start to the year that new team boss Laurent Mekies would have been looking for. Peter Baer claimed that the whole issue could have been avoided if a different strategy had been taken, perhaps covering Stroll off on lap 29. Then the team could have pushed for the final points position and could have avoided the incident between the drivers, with the CEO saying, "It would have avoided, first of all, the fight with Magnussen, and it would have avoided the mess between the drivers, but it's always easier afterwards. As far as the team order thing is concerned, yes, we discussed it. We gave Yuki a heads up and said, look, you need to overtake Magnussen, otherwise we need to swap. He had 2 laps and didn't make it, so we said let's swap. We discussed it with him." So a messy first week for the team, but a team that was expected to be in somewhat disarray both due to the circumstances moving into the season as well as the very nature of the team was Ferrari, with the garage split down the middle between a fast driver with the team at his feet and an intelligent driver with nothing left to lose. It was Carlos Sainz who came out on top this weekend, with his teammate clearly struggling with a braking issue, which was later revealed to cause a split of 100 degrees between the brakes at the front, drastically affecting the brake balance and throwing off Leclerc's corner entry for the duration of the race, but was especially difficult to manage during the opening 15 laps. However, after the race, Naomi Schiff and ex-F1 world champion Damon Hill were ruminating on the nature of the 2 Ferrari drivers and considering exactly what Ferrari is letting go by releasing Carlos Sainz at the end of the year, with Hill comparing the Ferrari teammates. It seems like Charles has an awful lot of bad luck and problems in races. It could be a case of, does he manage it as well as Carlos? Or is Carlos a thinking driver who maybe doesn't have the ultimate pace, but in a race, it's not about ultimate pace, it's about management? To which Schiff added, "There have been moments where things have happened on Charles' side of the garage that weren't necessarily happening on Carlos' side on race day. That's because it seemed like Carlos was ahead on a few things. Charles maybe relies on his speed quite a lot." To which Hill replied with a point that will likely be proven true or false over the course of the season now that Sainz has no need to hold back on his teammate. "You'd never say that Charles has got the upper hand over Carlos. Carlos is able to beat him on many occasions and has done over a season. I think that is a point to be made. Have we seen the best of Charles? Has he matured to a point where you can look at him and say he could take a title fight right the way through without dropping the ball?" While clearly Leclerc has the 1-lap pace, I've personally always questioned whether he has the killer instinct. The kind and lovable exterior of some F1 drivers often gives way to an inner bastard which is cold and calculating when the helmet goes on, something which Sainz exhibits. While yes, it was certainly an unforeseen issue that caused Leclerc's race to fall apart this weekend, it remains to be seen as to whether he can keep his head in a fight against a departing teammate who has always proven to be more capable of managing races, even if starting them from a couple spots further back on the grid. What do you think of the early season clashes that we've seen? Could it just be a case of learning bumps for the new team structure at RB? Or is there something deeper going on here between the drivers, who know that their futures in the sport are under severe threat? And what about Ferrari? Can you see Sainz maintaining this advantage over Leclerc throughout the season? Or will it be the case of when there are no issues, Leclerc is just the faster man? Let us know in the comments below.